En mijn man. Ik kan pakken.
Ja, heel leuk.
Ja, e-mail, pas.
Ik had een heel groot project en dat is afgelopen.
Bollywood.
Oh ja, oké.
Ik doe nu een beetje weer
Sound.
easy peasy.
Oh ja, oké.
Dan kijken we ook nog meer met het theater wat allemaal kan.
Ja.
Keating.
Dus,
Mom.
Maar nou vind ik wel leuk dat we dat kan vertellen. En ik wil met die vaak zo slag.
Oh ja, ja.
Schrijftijd niet geklopt.
Ja, oh ja, oké.
Ja, natuurlijk.
Ja, die hoor ik niet.
Nee, dit is sowieso wel. Ik kan altijd edit anything out.
Princess Tamine, the mother of Sohrab, looks around with a content smile on her face. The party that she has organized for her son is going to be perfect. It takes place in a grand hall of the Palace of Samangan. Inside, where it's nice and cool. Everyone of any importance in Samangan is present. And there are some musicians playing Afghan music in a corner, and servants are going back and forth. And in the middle, there's a big table. And the table is filled with plates, with saffron rice and some chicken with walnut sauce and some aubergine with sour cream, some pomegranates. And in the middle, there's a big roasted donkey. Sohrab is late. And when he finally comes in, he walks a bit clumsily, as if he hasn't figured out yet how to move his big body through space. And when his mother looks at him, she can't help but think, how fast has he grown up? She remembers that he was just a little baby lying on her breast. He was perfect. But then, just after a few months, he started to walk. And with 1 year, he could run as fast as a leopard. And at 3, he played polo. At 5, he picked up archery. And now, almost a man, he took up the highest sport of all, wrestling with his bare hands. And there is no one left in the country of Samangan who dares to challenge him to a fight. Sohrab kisses the hand of Princess Tamine, his mother, and he sits down opposite of her. And the chair under him looks like as it has been made for a dwarf. He looks a bit annoyed at the chair, and he shifts, and all of a sudden he lifts up the chair with one hand and, roaring like a lion, he says, "Why am I alone so strong? Why is no one equal to me? Whose son am I?" Princess Tamine looks at him and she says, "You know perfectly well I can lift up a chair like that with my little finger. Sit down, have some food, don't ruin the party." Sohrab sighs. He puts down the chair. And just as he is about to sit down, he hears someone laugh in the distance, maybe one of the musicians. And fast as lightning, he turns and he lifts up the entire table above his head and he throws it all the way to the wall. Princess Tamine gets up and she sees the table splitter into pieces onto the wall, and she watches the food dripping down, and in a moment she sees this donkey transform into a horse, being ridden by her son, leading an entire army to victory. And she looks back at her son's eyes, and she sees this kind of wild look in his eyes, as if the next thing that he's going to throw is either his mother or himself. With one hand gesture, she sends everyone away. She takes the hand of Sohrab and she says, "Listen. Once upon a time, there was a princess, and she was about your age, and just like you, she felt as if there was no one equal to her. She felt like towering high above anyone else, like a cypress tree. She was a princess, but her kingdom was small. In fact, it was subordinate to another big kingdom, which was the enemy of another big kingdom. One night, the princess was in her quarters. Her servant came to her, and she said, "Tonight, the great hero Rustam of our enemy kingdom is staying in the palace." And the look in Princess Tamine's eyes changed. Her mouth became straight, and she knew what to do. That night, when everyone else was asleep, she left the women's quarters together with her servant, and they tiptoed through the dark castle, which was only lit by the long white candle the servant carried. If her father would have caught her then, they might have killed her. And then they came to the room behind which the great hero Rustam was staying. And Sohrab looks at his mother with this curious look in his eyes, and he asked her, "And then, what did she do?" The princess entered, and there she saw the leopard skin, the weapons, and the bed. And Princess Tamine couldn't tell her son how she saw that the bed was lavishly filled with an enormous muscled chest, with enormous muscled arms, and with a face with a broad chin and eyes wide open, staring at her. She couldn't tell her son how she felt shivers going through her body, and how the air became thick with expectation. But she did tell her son that it was the great hero Rustam who asked her, "Who are you?" And she answered, "My name is Tamine, sole daughter of the king of Samangan. I am descended of a leopard's clan. There is no mate for me among the kings, nor are there many like me under heaven. But many and many a story have I heard about your deeds and of your glory, of how you have no fear and face alone dragons and demons and the dark unknown. I bit my lips in wonderment. I long to see your breast, your face. Now God brings you to this lonely place. Desire destroys my mind. I long to have your son." There was no force in nature that could have stopped what was meant to happen that night. And that night, that should have been endless. But in the morning outside, the sun started to shine, the birds started to twitter, a horse neighed, and inside the big hero Rustam took off a bracelet from his upper arm. It was beautiful, gold, and there was a bird engraved in it, and he said, "If you'll have a girl, braid this into her hair, but if you'll have a son, put it onto his upper arm so that he'll always know who his father is." Sohrab looked annoyed at his mother. "Do you really think that after all those years I'm going to believe that my father is the great hero Rustam?" And then Princess Tamine took a bracelet from out of her hair, from under her veil, and she put it onto the upper arm of Sohrab, and it fitted perfectly. And she said, "Be proud of who your father is. But don't tell anyone that you are the son of Rustam. He has many enemies, and if they know who you are, they will kill you." And carefully, she covered up the bracelet, lowering the sleeve.
Sometimes people ask me, what's it like being a stepdad? I have two stepchildren, and the oldest one, Imani, she's 12 years old. And Imani, she's this amazing girl. She's a go-getter. When we go camping, we do a lot. She and we will put up the tent. And when I go grocery shopping, she will call me up and tell me not to forget the milk because we're out of it. And she saw it wasn't on my grocery list. You know the kind of girl I'm talking about. And she's also very sensitive. not physically. I mean, she plays soccer, and when she gets hit in the head, she shakes it and she runs on. But a few weeks ago, she found a dead humblebee in the grass, and a tear rolled down her cheek. When Imani and I met, she was 9 years old, and I was her mother's new boyfriend. And Imani didn't like me at all. She didn't talk to me, well, unless it was to tell me that her real father was richer, stronger, smarter than me. She would laugh at me if I did something clumsy. And one time, she locked me and her mother out of the house. We had to call grandma to open the door. But obviously, the divorce of her parents was very painful for her. Her father and mother, they split when she was 7, and they were living in Ghana at the time, and her father is Ghanaian. And when they split, her mother and her sister and her, they went back to the Netherlands, and she hadn't seen her father for 2 years. And I knew this was very painful for her. Sometimes I would spend the night in the house, and then in the middle of the night I could hear her cry in her room. When me and my girlfriend were together for 6 months, we decided to go on a family holiday, camping in the Slovenian mountains. And on our way over there, I discovered that Imani had a fascination for Porsches. Whenever she would see a Porsche, she would scream, "Porsche!" And she would keep track of it, write it down, all the number of Porsches she spotted, which was quite a lot because we were, going through Germany. And one day, we're sitting in front of the tent. We're having dinner. And I turned to Imani. I said, "Imani, you like Porsches, don't you?" I said, "Well, I can imagine that at some point in your life you would like to buy one." I said, "But they're kind of expensive, they cost like as much as a house. So how would you go about that?" "Working." I said, "Yeah, that's a great idea. You can work, but a regular salary, I don't think it will cut it, because you have to save up for like 40 years." And she gives me this look, like, "What are you trying to do?" But I knew I had her on the hook because I was talking about Porsches. I said, "Imani, do you know what an entrepreneur is?" She shook her head. I said, "Well, an entrepreneur, that is somebody who has his own company. You don't have a boss. If you do well, you can make quite a lot of money. Do you know anybody who is an entrepreneur?" "My father." I said, yes, your father, definitely. He's an entrepreneur. "Anyone else?" "You?" I said, "Yes, you're right again." "Yes, I'm also an entrepreneur. And if you want, I can tell you something about it." And then she nodded. I said, "Okay, well, the most important thing is that you sell something that is very special, that nobody else sells." And with selling something, I mean like selling ice cream, but not ice cream because everybody sells ice cream, but something that is unique. "So what can you sell that is unique?" And she thought about it for a little minute. "Unicorns." I said, "That's a great idea. I don't know anyone who sells unicorns. So do you know where to get them?" No, she didn't. I said, "But that's fine. We're just brainstorming here. No problem. Let's park that. Other ideas." And we start spitballing these great ideas. Like she talks about floating umbrellas so you don't have to hold them. And about home trainers in school for the fat kids. And I tell a little bit about profit and how to go about marketing. And we have a great time. I'm loving it. And she loves it as well. Then the evening falls and we have to go to bed. We all sleep in the same department of the tent in a row. And Imani says, "I'm sleeping next to Thomas." It's in the middle of the night. And I wake up because I feel a hand on my face. I open my eyes and I see it's Imani. She has her eyes closed and her hand stretched out and it's trembling a little bit. And she's feeling my cheek, my chin, my lips, my nose. my ears. I pull her towards me, and she curls up in me. And we fall asleep. The next morning, we're at the breakfast table. And I told my girlfriend about what happened. And I take a bite from my cornflakes and I say, Imani, do you remember what happened last night? So what do you think of it? And she didn't say anything. And I said, well, let me tell you what I think of it. I think it was really, really nice. And I want you to know that there will be times that you like me and there will be times that you don't like me. And there will be times you will be angry with me and I will be angry with you. But I want you to know that I will always be there for you. So if people ask me, what's it like being a stepdad? It's fucking awesome. Thank you.
It's 11:30 on a Tuesday morning, London. And all of my friends are at work. Most of them work in beautiful offices. They're bankers, insurance brokers, lawyers. They have big salaries. I'm also at work. In my left hand, I have 3 dogs. And in my right hand, I have 2 bags of dog poo. I've just started working as a dog walker for a company called Precious Pooch. I look up and I see walking towards me a girl from school that I used to fancy. And she says, Duncan, Duncan! Oh my God, it is you! How are you? Oh my God, it's been so long! I'm like, I'm good, I'm really good. And I try and hide the dog poo behind my back. And I say, you know, business is good and starting to get a lot of traction. There's, you know, a lot of momentum, quite a few like irons, you know, in the fire. It's going really well. It's going really well. And then later on that afternoon, I get a phone call from my friend Billy, and he tells me about this cool startup he's just started working for. And he says, do you want to make some money? And he says, if you're a UK resident and you have a good credit rating, then you can leverage that. I have no idea what the word leverage means. Billy continues. He goes, my company has a network of people all over the UK who use their credit rating to order mobile phones. And our company pays them £50 for every phone they order. I love my parents. They are amazing. They're so supportive. And I feel like I can talk to them about anything. But in some ways, we're really different. My dad, for example, if I come to my dad with a business idea, his instinct is to try and protect me. And so he will start brainstorming or trying to think of potential problems of that idea just to help me so I don't get in trouble. And this is really sweet and it's important to know. You should definitely know about all the problems, but it's the least fun way to start any project. I'm in Morocco and I meet a carpet maker and I decide I'm going to invest my entire student loan on buying 10 carpets and I'm going to ship them back to England and I'm going to resell them for a handsome profit. I call up my dad and 10 minutes later, my carpet empire is over before it's even begun. 6 months later, I apply and I get accepted into flu camp. Now at flu camp, you get injected with a disease and you get monitored for 14 days and it's free food, unlimited movies and £2,000. So it's like a complete no-brainer, right? No-brainer. My mum and my dad get involved this time. They sit me down and they give me an hour lecture and that's the end of flu camp. So this time round, I'm not telling them. I'm making the decision for myself. So I tell Billy, sign me up. A couple of days later, 4 phones arrive in the post. 2 from O2 and 2 from Vodafone. I hand them over to Billy and his company transfers me £200. Easy. I am an entrepreneur. 8 months pass. Every few days, I get a new bill in the post from either O2 or Vodafone. And the numbers are getting bigger and bigger and bigger until I stop opening them. I'm trying to call Billy, but he's not answering his phone. The envelopes start arriving with red words on the outside, written like urgent and final notice. So I start waking up early every single morning, and I have to tiptoe past my parents' bedroom, and I go to the letterbox and I collect the post before they wake up. And any envelope that's addressed to me, I hide it in my bedroom in a drawer. I find out that the company has been raided by the police, and they're being charged with fraud and money laundering. All of their computers have been seized. I can't concentrate on anything, and I want to tell my family, but I don't. I want to tell my girlfriend, but I don't. I don't tell anybody. And the letters keep on arriving. I keep on hiding them, and the pile is now getting just so big. And my name is added to a private Facebook group of other people involved, sharing details about lawyers and updates of the police investigation. I leave the group. I don't want anything to do with it. It feels dirty. I feel dirty. And I'm sitting in our living room. I'm sitting on the sofa, and my dad is on a red armchair, and my mum walks through into the room, and she says, "Would you like a cup of tea?" And I just burst into tears, and my body is shaking, and I can't look at either of them. I can't stop shaking, and I'm just looking down at the ground. I'm crying. And my mum comes down and sits down next to me. And she holds me in her arms. And she says, "You've been raped, haven't you? It's okay. We love you. We both love you so much. It's okay." I haven't been. And I don't know why she thinks that, but there is so much kindness in the room. There's so much compassion that it is okay. And I tell them everything. And for the first time in almost a year, I'm free.
The year was 2004. I was 13 years old, and my mother was 46 years old. It was a very tense year for everyone in my family, but specifically for myself. And the reason was that my mother was so sick. My mother was so sick as she has never been before. She was all the time in bed, and she never leaves it. And it was so scary. And we didn't know why. I have 4 sisters. And me and my sisters, we didn't know what is the reason. Why doesn't she move from her bed? Why is she so sick? And everyone in the family kept it secret from us. Until one day, I overheard my father speaking to my aunt in the bedroom. And what I overhear is terrifying. He told her that my mother had a tumor in her uterus. and that she has to remove it. I was the eldest child. And I also felt responsible to keep that secret from my sisters, so I did. But that overloaded me. And I was all the time stressed over that. Sometimes I would cry, I'd go hide in my room and cry alone. My father took care of everything. He woke us up in the morning. He brushes the hair of my sisters. He prepares breakfast for us before school, and he makes us sandwiches for lunch. He dressed us up, and he did take care of everything. And from time to time, one of my older cousins of my aunt would come to help him and spare him some rest. And it was going on just fine with us. But with my mother, it was so difficult. She has never been that sick, ever. I know my mother is a very energetic woman. She's everywhere. She's doing everything. She's taking care of everyone, even her older brothers and sisters. She makes everything. She doesn't just cook. She makes bread at home. She makes yogurt at home. She is everywhere. But this year, she was nowhere at all. But in her bed. And from time to time, they would take her to the hospital. And they would check up on her, but they couldn't run an operation on her because her vital signs were very low. Her blood pressure was very low that they were afraid if they put her into anesthetic, she would die. So they kept postponing the operation. 1 month, and 1 more month, and 1 more month, until 5 months has passed. And now she could actually get up from her bed. She could go to the toilet. She could dress herself up, and from time to time she could knock on our doors to make sure that we are fine. And that was already a very good improvement. So that time, they took her to the hospital again. They admit her, the doctor takes her measures, and he says, in this condition, she can go on an operation, but we have to wait for 1 week to make sure that this is stable, that it's not coincidence. So we wait. We waited for 1 week, and we go again. And that time we admit her to the hospital. They measure her vital signs again, and it's all okay. And now the doctor said that now we have to make these images again, these scans, like the MRI or CAT scan, I don't know what, because those has been 5 months old, and we don't know what is the extent, to what extent the tumor has grown now. So we need to make new scans. So they take her to the room, to the scanning room, and we were waiting, and we were like 15 person there waiting in the room. They finish their scans, and they bring her back to her room again. She's lying in her bed, and we were waiting for the doctor to come with the results. And while we're waiting, the doctor is coming towards us with a very big smile on his face, like a crazy man, like. And my dad looks up at him like, "Are you stupid?" And he's still smiling, and he starts speaking to my father, and he says, "Sir, God put you into a very harsh exam to give you a very nice gift in the end." And my father was like, "What, is this man crazy? It's not time for rhetorics, man. What's happening?" And he keeps talking. He says, "Sir, your wife didn't have a tumor. Your wife was pregnant all this time with a baby." And like, what the fuck? But everyone is happy, everyone is cherishing the moment, people are hugging each other, and I'm watching everyone so excited about the news. And I look at my mother, on her bed. And she's dead cold. She's so frustrated and so angry, and she is not at all interacting with all this happenings around her. And I keep looking at her. I don't understand what's happening with her. Everyone is happy. And she waits until everyone is calm again. Then she starts speaking. And she goes like this. She speaks to the doctor and says, "Doctor, this is a tumor. And it has to be getting rid of." And now everyone is like, what is she saying? And she keeps going. This is a 46 years old body that has been sick for 5 months, is taking medications for cancer. What are you expecting? What do you expect this baby to be? It has either to be a mentally retarded or physically retarded. This has no way to come to life. And everyone is silent again. And my dad starts speaking, the doctor starts speaking, and this is an ethical dilemma now. This is a 5-month-old baby. It's a living creature. And it's unethical to abort it. She's so strong about her opinion. My father also, he's a 52 years old by then. This is his last chance to have another kid. And he doesn't agree to aborting it, but nobody can convince her. But until it comes to me and I start talking. As I said, I have 4 sisters. And don't get me wrong, I love them so much. Like, really. But I always wanted a brother for myself. I grew up in a village in Egypt where all my cousins had 2 or 3 or 4 brothers, and they were all like a lot together. And when we play around the how to say that? I don't know, outgrow me. They are so much, and sometimes he could beat me. I couldn't defend myself. I never felt like I had someone to lean on. I never felt like I have someone to get my back. Someone to play with when nobody else when nobody else want to play with me. And I wanted a son all the time. And she always only gave me sisters. And this is my only opportunity now to have a son. So I announced my desire so loudly and clear. He has to come. Whatever case he is in, I want him. And you don't have any right to do that to me. I announced it, I was 13 years old, but I was so strong that this was the only reason that she actually kept him. 4 months later, my mother gives birth to the most precious thing in my life. My brother, Mu'taz. It was 15th of November 2004. And when he came to life, he now became my full responsibility. He slept next to me, not next to my mother. I changed his diapers. I changed his baby clothes to him. And when he started to know how to chew, I fed him his first little pieces of food. And he grows up to take after me in everything. And to listen to me in everything and accompany me everywhere. And he is the most precious thing that ever has happened to me. And he grows up healthy, it was a miracle, I don't know, but he was nothing as she imagined. But the only thing that he was too small, he was too little, and he grows up very weak and very thin. But that's okay. But I remember, 2 years ago, in my family calls me at least once a week or something, and then one of their calls, my mother complains to me because my brother Mu'taz, he gets bitten in the street many times and he cannot defend himself. He's so weak. And she was just ranting to me, and then I ask her to let him to speak to me. And I call him, I speak to him and I tell him, Mu'taz, why don't you do push-ups at home? And now everyone is laughing in the video call, and they're like, what do you think? Can you look at him? And he also he doesn't get it, and just believe me, just do it. And I remember that my sisters filmed him trying to do his first push-up and he fails to get up. And it was so funny, we laughed about it, but I kept telling him, just believe me, as he always did. And he does, and I told him, just at least try to stay plank for a minute or something, and then it will come up. And he does actually, and he keeps sending me more videos of how many like push-ups he can do now, and he kept growing it. And if you can see him now, he is a strong, like, he's fit, he can defend himself, he can stand up. And that happened in everything that I couldn't deal with him. In every conflict he made, they would just call him and I would speak to him man to man, even when he was so small. I spoke to him rational, as if he was a man. And I'm here now. And I live in Amsterdam, you live in Egypt. And I don't know if I can say this way, but when I'm so far away from them for so long, he is the person I miss the most, not even more than my parents. And I always long to be back with him, to have these speeches about football, about whatever, like about his school, about his classes, about what is he doing in his life. I miss him so much, more than I miss anyone. And he gave me totally, like, since the day he came into my life, he gave me a new beginning and a new life. And that's my story.